Once upon a time, there was a small town nestled deep in the woods. It was a place that had a dark history, and the locals whispered about the strange occurrences that happened there. The town was known as Bad Place and was avoided by many travelers who passed through the woods. The residents of Bad Place kept to themselves and rarely ventured out into the world beyond their town. The few outsiders who did venture into Bad Place were often met with suspicion and hostility. There was something off about the town, and nobody could quite put their finger on it. One day, a young couple decided to take a road trip through the woods. They had heard of Bad Place and were curious about the rumors they had heard. As they drove through the winding roads, the scenery around them changed dramatically. The green trees became scarce, and the woods became dark and ominous. As they approached Bad Place, they felt a sense of unease. The town was quiet, and there were no signs of life. They drove down the main street, and the buildings were old and decrepit. The young couple decided to stop at a small diner for some food. The diner was empty, and they were the only customers. The waitress was an old woman who seemed to be staring at them with cold, dead eyes. As they ate their food, they noticed that there were no windows in the diner. The only light came from the flickering fluorescent bulbs overhead. They tried to make small talk with the waitress, but she was unresponsive and seemed to be lost in her own thoughts. The young couple finished their food and decided to leave. As they walked outside, they noticed that the town was still eerily quiet. There was no wind, and the trees seemed to be frozen in place. They got back into their car and continued driving through Bad Place. The buildings were dark, and there were no signs of life. The young couple felt a sense of dread wash over them as they realized that something was not right. Suddenly, their car broke down, and they were stranded in Bad Place. They tried to call for help, but there was no signal on their phones. They were alone, in the middle of a dark and ominous town. As they walked through the town, they noticed strange symbols etched into the buildings. The symbols were ancient, and they seemed to be some kind of warning. They tried to ignore them and continue on their way, but the symbols only seemed to get more frequent and ominous. They eventually came across an old mansion, situated on the outskirts of Bad Place. The mansion was old and run down, but it was the only building that seemed to be occupied. The young couple knocked on the door, and an old woman answered. She welcomed them inside and offered them a place to stay for the night. The couple was grateful for the hospitality and decided to stay. As they settled in, they noticed that the old woman had a strange aura about her. She seemed to be hiding something, and the young couple felt uneasy around her. That night, they were awoken by strange noises coming from outside. They looked out the window and saw that the town was alive with activity. The buildings were glowing with a strange energy, and the symbols on the walls seemed to be alive. The young couple was terrified and realized that they were trapped in Bad Place. They tried to leave the mansion, but the old woman stopped them. She told them that they couldn't leave and that they had to stay in Bad Place forever. The young couple tried to fight back, but they were no match for the dark forces that were at work in Bad Place. They were trapped, with no hope of escape. Days turned into weeks, and the young couple lost track of time. They were trapped in the mansion, and were forced to do the bidding of the old woman and the dark forces that controlled Bad Place. They saw things that they could never unsee. They witnessed rituals and sacrifices that were beyond their understanding. They were forced to participate in unspeakable acts that went against everything they believed in. The young couple had become prisoners in their own bodies, their minds warped by the dark energy of Bad Place. They longed to escape, but they knew that there was no way out. One day, they heard a knock on the door. It was a group of outsiders who had stumbled upon Bad Place by accident. The young couple tried to warn them, but it was too late. The outsiders were pulled into the dark web of Bad Place, and the cycle began anew. Years turned into decades, and Bad Place continued to thrive. The town had become a hub for dark energy, drawing in those who were lost or seeking something more. The young couple had long since lost their identities, becoming nothing more than tools for the old woman and the dark forces of Bad Place. They were trapped in a never-ending cycle of terror and despair. Eventually, the couple passed away, their souls forever trapped in the confines of Bad Place. The town continued to thrive, drawing in more lost souls and perpetuating the cycle of darkness. And so, Bad Place remained a dark spot on the map, a place to be avoided by all who knew of its existence. It was a place where the darkness had taken hold, a place where the light of hope could never shine. And it remained that way for many years, a testament to the power of evil in the world.